Hello, I'm John, and this is Must Read More. Today I've got a book haul for you. I've got quite a few books here because these are books I've picked up over the last few weeks. It's been about a month since my last book haul, I think. But I picked these up throughout the month of September. I think I picked some up in October now too. But I just thought that I would share them with you. I don't really know anything about most of them or the writers. And in a few cases I do, but mostly they're new to me. The first book is The Reason Why by Cecil Woodham Smith. This is about the charge of the Light Brigade during the Crimean War. The charge of the Light Brigade was a disastrous mistake where, not exactly how you refer to cavalry, but this kind of company of cavalry raced down into this battle and was just pretty well decimated, and it became a very famous event in the 1800s. I used to have a really nice copy of this. Well, it was nice in a way. It was a paperback. It was one of those Time Life paperbacks from the 60s. It had a really neat cover. Very colorful, but they're very, very fragile. The covers snap. They're really stiff cardboard, and the spines break. And I don't know what happened to it. I have no idea. It disappeared. I've looked all over the house for it. I've looked under things. I've looked under couches. I've looked under couch cushions. I've looked behind books on the shelves. I've looked everywhere for that book, and I do not know where it went. So this copy was only $1, so it'll replace that nicely. The second book is The Black Death by Gwyneth Cravens and John S. Marr. This is a novel about what would happen if there was a plague outbreak in New York City in the 70s. And I've never read anything by either of these authors, and I've never read this. I have seen this book before somewhere. It's kind of got that paperbacks from hell look to it, but I don't know if this will be any good or not, but I thought I'd give it a chance. Like I said, it was only $1. Most of the books I buy are only $1 or $2. I'm lucky to live somewhere where there is an abundance of used books, so I can just find things like this and give them a chance. So might be an October read, maybe a Halloween read, I don't know. I'm not really a seasonal reader that way. So the next one is I Protest, Khe Sanh, Vietnam by David Douglas Duncan. And there is David Douglas Duncan and the price sticker I've yet to remove. I have to take these off and then clean the glue off with alcohol, so it's a little bit of a hassle, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. This is a first printing from 1968. This was actually published during the siege at Khe Sanh, and I've already read this, and I'll be talking about it later on in a wrap-up video, but it's mostly just photographs, and I have to be kind of careful because this book is 56 years old, I believe. I'm afraid to crack the spine and have it fall apart. See, this is a very famous picture, which has been on several covers of books about Vietnam, and I'll be talking about Duncan's message later on in a wrap-up video. So I like this one though. The next book is Fletch by Gregory McDonald. This is the inspiration behind that movie, the 80s movie Fletch, and I've heard that the book is quite a bit different. I thought I might give it a shot. I liked the movie all right with was it Chevy Chase? It's been a while since I've seen that. I always liked the second one better with the Cleavon Little and the powder blue Cadillac and everything. But that's Fletch. The next book is Lawrence Block's The Burglar Who Liked to Quote Kipling. I got this because I really liked his book, The Burglar in the Library. It was one of his Bernie Rodenbauer series, and this is too. I'm hoping this is as good as The Burglar in the Library, and if it is, maybe I'll read the entire Bernie Rodenbauer series. It's always nice to find a good series. The next book is Last Stand at Sabre River by Elmore Leonard. I've liked all the Elmore Leonard books that I've read. I don't come across them very often, and I certainly don't come across his westerns very often. I read one of his westerns for Michael K. Vaughan's event, June on the Range, earlier this year, and I really liked it. So the next book is this really nice copy of the Journals of Sylvia Plath, and I've read The Bell Jar, which I liked. It wasn't particularly my favorite book, but I've never forgotten that first paragraph. I mean, I don't remember it word for word, but I do remember, it was the summer they executed the Rosenbergs. Or was it was the summer they electrocuted the Rosenbergs. I can't remember, and then, what is it? She says that I used to remember the scene where she's listening to her heartbeat. I am. I've always remembered those two things. I read that book probably 15 years ago. It's been a long time. But my favorite thing that Sylvia Plath wrote that I've read was Johnny Panic and the Bible of Dreams, which is a short story. I've always wanted to read her poetry, even though I'm really not a big fan of poetry. And it's not that I don't like poetry, it's that it just seems to bounce right off me. I think when it comes to reading, I'm really more of a big picture kind of person and less of a word by word kind of person, if that makes sense. So I know Sylvia had a lot of issues, and I know how she met her end, and I know she had quite a bit of trouble with her husband. So I don't know how much I'll enjoy this book or when I'll get to it, but I just couldn't pass this up. It was only a few dollars, and it's been at one of my local stores for quite a while, and I've seen it a couple of times, and I thought, well, I should get that, and finally I just went ahead and got it, so I'm glad to have it. The next book is Empire of the Sun by J.G. Ballard. I'm pretty sure this is somewhat autobiographical. I haven't had particularly good luck with the Ballard books that I've read. I've read a collection of his short stories, and I've read Concrete Island, and I thought they were inventive, but they weren't really my kind of thing. So, but I'm willing to give him another chance, and I've heard good things about this. The next book is Our Town by Thornton Wilder. This is a play. I don't know what this play is about, but I've been trying to read more plays this year, and I've heard good things about this one. So I may actually read this pretty soon. It just depends on what I can get to. It's always pretty easy to read plays because they're generally meant to be watched in a short period of time, so it doesn't take all that long to get through them. The next book is The Night Train at Deoli by Ruskin Bond. I don't know anything about these. I just really like the cover. I'm really interested in trains for some reason. Steam trains, just train stations, subways. I really seem to like stories that are set on and around trains, even though I'm not like a train spotter or particularly interested in learning about trains or anything. And these stories take place in India, and I'm pretty sure that Ruskin Bond grew up in India. I think he was you know, of British descent, but I think he was born in India. I'm not 100% certain on that. I don't really know anything about Ruskin Bond except what I read on the back cover of this, and I think on the inside. So I always really like to pick up short story collections. Short stories seem to me a good way to get a feel for a writer, and I like them to keep short stories around for when I have kind of a lull in the other things I'm reading, and maybe I can't make up my mind about whether I want to read a novel or a nonfiction book or something. So that's the night train at Deoli and other stories. The next book is The Penguin Henry Lawson Short Stories, edited with an introduction by John Barnes. I don't know anything about Henry Lawson or John Barnes as far as I know. The only thing I know about Henry Lawson is that he's an Australian, and these are stories set in Australia. And I don't think I've ever read any fiction by an Australian as far as I know. I'm sure that I probably have, and I just either don't remember it or I didn't know it. So I think this will be pretty interesting. Now, the next three are the Unicorn Book of 1954, 1955, and 1956. And let's see, Outstanding Events of the Year. And when I saw these on the shelf like this, I thought that they were just somebody's school photo albums, because that's kind of what they look like. But I was completely wrong, and I'm glad that I looked into them, because they're actually kind of stories, articles about what happened throughout these years, and they're filled, just packed with pictures, and some of them I can't actually show because some of them are pretty violent. And well, let's see, there's President Nasser of Egypt playing chess. There's a map of Egypt and the Sinai. Just interesting things like that. And they have categories about the arts, movies, music, news, world events. I'm really glad that I looked at these, because I could have just passed these right up. And these fit right along with a kind of a really long-term project I'm in the middle of, which I pick up and let down and pick up and let down, of reading books written in and about from the middle of the 50s onward up until about 1980. So I just thought these were really cool, and I have 3 of them. So that's the Unicorn Book of 1954, 1955, and 1956. I'd never seen these before, so they were $1 a piece, and that's a pretty good deal. So the rest of these books are all war paperbacks. I do collect war paperbacks, even though I am pretty much anti-war. I still find war to be an interesting subject and pretty much an inescapable reality of the human experience. So we have Now Fried the Armorers by Robert O. Hollis, Battle Action with the British Gloucesters in Korea. This is a Bantam War book, and these like this all tend to have this wraparound cover. I don't know, I hate to do this because it's so easy to crack the spine. These books are from the 80s. These are reprints. I picked up 3 of them, I think. This is Platoon Leader by James R. McDonough, a frontline personal report of Vietnam battle action. It also has the wraparound cover. I don't see these war paperbacks much anymore. I only started collecting them about a year or so ago, even though I've had them on and off for probably the last 20 years. I don't see them very often, so when I see them, I do pick them up. And I don't collect them according to value or anything like that. I tend to collect them both because I'm interested in the subject and because I rather like the artwork. Next book is Save the Hostages by David Reed. A true life rescue mission as mercenaries in Paris race to save thousands of lives. This also has the wraparound cover, and this is also from the 80s. This is about something happened in the Congo, and there was some kind of an uprising in I believe it was still the Belgian Congo at the time. I'm not 100% about that. I don't know anything about this subject really. The wars in mid-century Africa are an interest of mine, but I want to know more about. But it's very hard to actually find books about the wars in Africa in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I don't know why that is. I don't know if there's just not, a lot of documentation or what the deal is. So something I did forget to mention is that these books like this, these Bantam War books, almost always have illustrations in them. Let's see, that's a C-130. They have illustrations of weapons, tanks, airplanes, sometimes ships. There's an Ilyushin 18. That's a Soviet plane. This is also a Bantam War book. I think this one is a little bit older, probably from the, let's see, okay, this is a little bit older. This one's from 1980. American Guerrilla in the Philippines by Ira Wolfert. The unforgettable drama of a daring underground war against the Japanese Empire. I suppose this one takes place after the Japanese invasion of the Philippines in 1941. And this one is also illustrated on the back, and it also has these illustrations on the inside. So there's a BAR, and there's a submarine. Looks like an American submarine. Although to be fair, I'm not really, the Japanese submarines are kind of a hole in my knowledge. I don't really know a lot about the Japanese submarines. I used to have a really, really beautiful paperback about, or it was by a Japanese submarine commander, but that was 20 years ago, and I don't have a clue what happened to it. This is Bushmasters, America's Jungle Warriors of World War II by Anthony Arthur. This one isn't quite like the other ones. It's not illustrated the same way. This is a, let's see, St. Martin's Press. So I don't know anything about this one. This is Hey Mac, Where You Been? Living Memories of the U.S. Marines in the Korean War by Henry Berry. I'm pretty sure this is a collection of interviews with soldiers of the Korean War. So this one's also a little bit different, but it's also got pictures on the back. Some of these interview books are really good. It just kind of depends. You never know if you're going to get a good one or a bad one. I really like the interviews with people who are more willing to be open with the interviewer, and that's not always the case in these kinds of books. But this one may be pretty good. It says here he's also the author of Semper Fi, Mac, so I'm imagining that's probably a book about World War II, probably in the same vein as interviews. So that might be something to look out for if this one's any good. This is Zero by Masataki Okumiya and Jiro Horikoshi with Martin Caden. The story of Japan's air war in the Pacific as seen by the enemy, which I don't know if that tagline would fly today, but it is about the Mitsubishi Zero. At the beginning of the war between Japan and the United States, Japan had superior fighters, of which the Zero was the best. This is also a wraparound cover. There's a B-29, and so this is really, I really like the way this book is. I like the red, white, and blue stripes and everything. The silver really works well. Sometimes these books about airplanes tend to be pretty dry. They tend to be about production and that kind of thing, resources, armaments, and they can get pretty dry about the engineering process and that sort of thing. I don't know about this one, so we'll just have to see. This is The Divine Wind by Rikihei Inaguchi and Tadashi Nakajima and Roger Pinot. I hope I said those names right. I'm really not good with pronouncing names. So that's this is about the kamikazes in World War II. The Divine Wind. I guess pretty much everybody knows what the kamikazes were and what they did. They were mostly young men who had been raised in this kind of Bushido code, and they were taught that it was glorious to die for the emperor, to die for Japan. So they would get in their airplanes and dive them into American ships. And I have another book about the kamikazes that I'll probably read before I get to this one. But that's a really well-drawn cover, I think. You don't get covers like this anymore. The last one is Flying Tiger, Chenault of China. Once again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. And I believe that's a P-40 Warhawk. Not really sure about that. But a lot of the P-40s had that kind of sharp print on them. This is about the Flying Tigers in China. They were American pilots who went to China to fight the Japanese when the Japanese invaded China. And this guy was their leader, I guess. I don't really know a whole lot about the Flying Tigers, which is one reason I picked this up. I used to really like that History Channel show Dogfights, which was on about 20 years ago. And so I'm kind of familiar with the air war in China, but the specifics not so much. And it's just got a yellow back, and the pages are red. I wonder why they don't dye the pages like this anymore. You don't ever see that. There used to be all kinds of colors, green and blue and red. I really like when they did that, and I wish they hadn't stopped doing that. And that's my book haul today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've read any of these books, let me know, or let me know your thoughts, and it's always good to hear from people. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.